guys, this is Zach from Watches on You, and today I'm going to be taking a look at a very cool mid-level Swiss chronograph. This is the Raymond Weil Freelancer Piper Special Edition. Now, as you can see, this watch was made in partnership with Piper Aircraft, and Piper Aircraft is a very well-known, high-quality airplane manufacturer, and they typically manufacture planes such as this, which are just single-engine propeller planes, but they are done very, very well. And I just wanted to show you this right away because they do give you this very cool model airplane, and I've never really seen a prop like this put in a watch box with the watch, and it's a very interesting feature to have. But now we're going to move on to the watch itself. So let me get it out of the box here. One second. So first off, I'm going to go over this watch's case. So the case on this watch is 45 millimeters in diameter, and it's not actually made out of, it's not made out of a typical material. It's actually made out of a blend of stainless steel and titanium. So what that really allows is you can get kind of the best of both worlds of each. You get the easy polishing and the, in my opinion, better look of a stainless steel watch, and also as well as the heft, because this watch is not as light as your typical titanium, but you also get the increased scratch resistance of titanium. So going around the case, you can see it's really all entirely brushed, and that is really to add to the aviation aspect, make it look a little bit more tougher, less dressy. Raymond Weil tends to make a lot of dressy watches, and this one is definitely one of the more sporty ones, and it just has a very nice classic round case, and it just really adds to the aviation aspect to it as well. So moving on to the dial. So as you can see on this dial, it's got a very kind of cool, more sporty looking dial, and I like the use of many different colors. You can see that they're using the red for the GMT hand, and then they're running seconds hand, and then they're also using blue for the second hand, and then two of the sub-dials, and then they have the white main hands, white indices, and then you can see the white GMT marker near, or the red GMT marker near 12, sorry. So now going on to the overall functions. So as I said, this watch is actually a GMT as well as a chronograph, which you can obviously see here. And the GMT hand is this long hand right here, rating out from the center, very easy to read, and it goes around in a 24-hour cycle, and you can really easily, they contrast the lower half of the dial, they contrast it in really towards nighttime and daytime, so that's very easy to tell exactly what time of the day the other time zone is, which can just take away some of the confusion. And it is in a 24-hour scale, so that is also very helpful as well. But now moving on to the chronograph function. So this uses, Raymond Weil says it uses their RW5000 movement, but really what it is a ETA Valjoux 7750 variant with the GMT function. So at 12 o'clock you get a 30-minute subdial for the chronograph. At 6 o'clock you get a 12-hour subdial for the chronograph, and then at 9 o'clock you get a very cool looking running second dial. Now they really increase the aviation aspect with the use of that dial, because you can see it's got the altitude kind of display that you'd see on a plane in the second dial in the subdial, and it really makes it look a lot more aviation make it look a lot more aviation-like, and you can also see that the ring they put around that also is kind of in the shape of an airplane dial. So now to demonstrate the chronograph. So to demonstrate the chronograph, it's the same as all automatic chronographs, and you press the top pusher to start it. So there you can see the large blue second hand starts moving, and then you stop it with the upper pusher as well, and then you reset with the bottom pusher. So as you can see, very easy function. That's really how all chronographs are going to work, so not too surprising. And one other thing I'd like to add to this about the dial is that it also has a tachymeter bezel for calculating speed. So it's got a lot of useful aviation functions. The chronograph is obviously useful just for timing distances and things like that, so you know exactly when to do certain maneuvers, other things, and things like that. You also have a GMT function, which as a pilot, you're probably traveling through a lot of different time zones. You want to be able to track to either your home time or a place that you're frequently traveling, another great feature. And the tachymeter bezel is also great because if you're able to find a marker on the ground or something so you know how far you've traveled, you can then use that to calculate your airplane's speed. So now to show you guys actually the movement on the case back. So here is that, as they say, RW 5000 movement, but really it is an ETA. And if you guys are familiar with the value, you'll definitely see that this is a very, very similar movement to it, just on looks. But they do finish it up quite well, so that really kind of redeems them for using an over-the-counter ETA movement. And they finish it, in my opinion, really well compared to a lot of manufacturers. Some manufacturers will tend to take ETA movements and then just basically slap them on there, put a little bit of finishing, and then they're done. They really perlaged the whole top of the movement, which I like a lot. They put a custom rotor on. So they did up this movement a bit. They put some more blued screws in than usual. And so this is obviously also a higher quality version of the Valjoux, as ETA does make different qualities, so different accuracies. This is definitely one of the higher grades. And they did put extra effort into it, so it's not like they're just doing complete over-the-counter, put no work in to this movement. So now moving on to the wrist shot, but first I'd actually like to discuss this clasp. I really like this clasp. I like how actually thin it is. It forms to the wrist very well, and you'll see that when I put it on, and it also keeps it nice and light. Some even leather straps will have super chunky deployant clasps, and I'm not a huge fan of that. I also like how they made it a push button deployant clasp, because that way there's no worry about either it falling off on accident or being too hard to take off, which I have experienced many clasps that are too hard to either put on or take off, and that is a big issue, I think, in a lot of them. So now putting it on the wrist, oops, sorry, that is the wrong way around, so going the other way now, you see it on the wrist here, so it is quite large. The 45 millimeters, that's really, I'd say, that's for sure at the high end. I am not a huge fan of large watches, so I would definitely want one smaller. 40 millimeters I've said in basically all my videos my favorite, especially for a sports watch. So I think that this is a bit too large, but yet it does look very good on the wrist still. And I have a 7-inch wrist, so I do have a bit of a larger wrist. So if you have a small wrist and you're a little bit worried about size, maybe this isn't the piece for you. Maybe you want to look for a smaller chronograph, but it does look very good overall. The thickness, it does get pretty thick, but being that this is a sports watch, you're not necessarily going to be wearing this with a suit very much, so getting it caught on the cuff of your shirt shouldn't be a big issue. But if you don't like big chunky watches or you have a very small wrist, this may be one to stay away a bit from because it does get quite large. But one thing that contributes to its comfort is this very high quality leather strap, and it has these nice holes in it, which kind of add to an old, kind of more retro design, and I really like that as well. And then, as I said, the clasp is very, very comfortable. It molds to the wrist quite well. I haven't experienced any issues with the clasp at all. It's never accidentally fallen out on me. So let's take it off here. And so now overall, this watch is it's one of the best built mid-level Switch watches I've found. Again, I would say strive towards a in-house movement watch, maybe a pre-owned Rolex, but if you really want a chronograph in this range, I think, and this one definitely is one of the more unique designs of any of them in this range, this is for sure one to consider as an option. It is built very, very well. I haven't had found any quality issues with this piece in particular, and so I think that this is a great option. Now, Raymond Weil does not actually manufacture this piece anymore. It was made in a limited production run. They never really said if they were going to stop when they made it or how many they were going to make, but they didn't make too many of them. So they actually did now finally stop making it though. So now if you're going to purchase a watch, you'll need to either be looking at pre-owned or gray market sites which still have them, and I found that most of those prices are actually in the just under $2,000, and I think that's a pretty good price for this watch, just considering the other options you have at that price point. I think that this one offers a lot of great quality that you can't necessarily find in a lot of brands in the sub $2,000 range. So again, overall, this is a great sports watch if you're considering something in this price range, and a chronograph as well. It's got the ETA movement, which is a bit of a downside that's not in-house, but ETAs are known to be very easy to service, so that will drive that cost down quite a bit, and also their robustness and reliability. So it has that going for it, even though it doesn't have that nice in-house design. So I'd just like to thank actually Duke. He knows who he's out there somewhere, I'm sure. He lent me this piece to review. It's a part of his personal collection. But we're also going to be leaving a link in the description to this piece if you want more information. But also please remember to like, subscribe, and share. Thank you for watching.